there, viewers, and welcome back to the South Main Auto Channel. So I got this 05 GMC. It's a 2500 HD with the fuel-efficient 6-liter V8, and the charge indicator is on the dashboard, indicating the battery's not charging. Kind of a regular routine thing here at the shop, and I actually wasn't gonna record it, but I decided, you know, the other battery charging one we did there on the Ford, which stuff that I see is, you know, kind of routine or just, you know, regular everyday stuff you guys seem to kind of enjoy. So I'm just going to show you a couple quick checks. I've already looked at it because like I said, I didn't want to record it, but I figured I'd just bring it along, kind of show you what's up with these, show you how they work, how I make a diagnosis. Is it the alternator? Is it a bad connection? You know, what's the story? And see what you guys think. All right, so we have just your standard, what I would consider a 2-wire GM alternator. So we have our alternator, generator, whatever you want to call it, our battery output wire, the heavy wire. We have our gray wire here, which is going to be our duty cycle control. The field control for the alternator is going to regulate the, you know, charge amount the alternator puts out, which is ECM controlled on this. And then our brown wire, which is our charge indicator light wire, I guess would be your L terminal on your old school alternators. I'm not concerned about that wire, the one that runs the charging indicator, simply because the charging indicator works and the vehicle indeed is not charging. So I guess I'll run down the procedure in which I did to determine if this thing was toast. Now when the alternator doesn't work, it makes voltage drop testing a little more difficult, because if there's no current flow, there's no voltage drop, or, you know, there shouldn't be. What's it say? So I guess first thing first is I did verify that the alternator is not charging. And you know, a lot of people commented before that, oh, you use this fancy tool. Well, the Vanessa O is nothing more than a multimeter. It does have a scope function. It's a poor scope at best, but it is. I just use it because it's got a big display on it. So our battery's under charge right now at 11.91. I'm going to start it. The belt and stuff on this thing is squawks pretty good. Customer's aware of that. We'll take it fired up here. We can see it's not charging. So while it's running, what I like to do is I'll just grab my, you know, my positive lead. We'll go right on the positive lead of the alternator. Make sure that there's not an open in the wire. Check right at the back of the alternator. You know, we got the same reading, 11.67. And then, you know, we can very quickly just go on the alternator case ground. Reading stays the same, 11.66. You shut it off. So the next thing we want to know is the alternator, or is the ECM in control of the alternator? In other words, is it, you know, being commanded on? Because what if, you know, what if the alternator's not receiving the signal to, you know, turn on? You know, you're going to be sitting at this base voltage. So, you know, theoretically, we could have, you know, bad ECM, wire could be broke back to the ECM, you know, any of those symptoms. And I don't know right offhand if this system has the ability to generate a code, you know, open circuit, you know, if that wire was open or not. Let me answer the phone. I'm here by myself today. The video phone goes bananas. Good problem, I guess. So I tapped into the generator control wire, so it's going to be the control wire from the ECM. And on these, you kind of have to know how the system works in order to, you know, determine if it's working correctly or not. This one, according to service information in GM, it works on a, you know, a duty cycle. It did not give me the voltage range. Ends up being it's about 8 volts, you know, square wave. But what's important is it works at a frequency of 400 hertz. So it turns, you know, on and off 400 times per second. And evidently that's to reduce noise in the radio, and I can't remember what else they said. They had a couple little things on there as to why they did that. So what we'll do is, this signal is actually generated just key on engine off and key on engine running. So let me turn the key on. So the key is on. and we can look. This is the control wire, like I said, on the alternator. And what we can do is to make sure that it's actually working at the right frequency, we'll pause this, we'll grab some cursors here, and we'll go from one on-time event to another. And you can see right there, we're actually working directly at 400 hertz. So it's exactly as it's stated in, in service data. Now, a couple of people are going to go bananas because they're like, oh, we don't have this fancy scope. We don't need one. You can use a regular standard multimeter. You just can't see it, so to speak. So we'll just come up to our regular meter, and then we're just going to go down to frequency. We're going to see what frequency the signal's working at. Oops. We can see right here we're 398.9 hertz, and most meters, just regular DVOMs have a frequency setting on them, so you can check that. Now the on and off time of that signal does change with engine load and RPM, according to service data too. But at this point, we know we have power to the back. The alternator has a good case ground. Our battery's about, our battery voltage is quite low, but we have everything there that should initiate, a charge cycle. However, it's not. So at this point, I make the call, put the alternator on it. Once the alternator's on, test the output of the alternator from there, and then, move on with life. But I thought I'd just show you guys real quick, how I would go about it. I know multiple shops and multiple people that, if your charge indicator light comes on, you put an alternator on it. That's just what you do. That's not what I do. I can't. I just can't bring myself to do it. We got a junk reman one there. We'll throw that on. That's all we can get for today. I'd much rather have new. Cross your fingers, hope that one works. We'll get a little charge back on this battery while we're swapping that out. Do some quick checks on that when we're done, and hope it's good to go. Now, they did not opt to do the belt and tensioner on it. At this point, they were told that they needed that anyways. That's why it was chirping. But being that alternator has puked, that was the budget money. So we'll get that on and move on. This is what I get for picking on reman stuff. I made a mistake. When I ordered it, I didn't look at what vehicle was in the computer system, and I ordered it for the 07 Pontiac Vibe I was just working on. Awesome. Unfortunately, they have the right one in stock. Only in a reman, however. So we're still kind of in that boat. Thought it looked a little small. That's alright, it'll give our battery time to charge. I'll move on to bigger and better things when it shows up. We'll swap it out. So we'll get the air intake here out of the way. Crap, looks like our hose clamp is broke. There it goes. So I can get to the belt tensioner a little bit easier. Got a new tensioner on it, relatively new, it's kind of shiny. 15. There we go. Set that there. Let's see if we can get the connector here behind the alternator. Come on, I can feel you back there. Make sure you unhook your battery before you do this too. There we go. We got there 10 or 13. It is. I think these are like 160 amp alternator or something. At least they're easy to change. And for the guys who do swap out alternators just based on the battery light being on, that probably works 9 out of 10 times at least, in my experience. Not that I swap them, but the majority of the time it is the alternator. get a screwdriver slash pry bar slash chisel. Actually, we'll use the real tool. There she is. And then on these, maybe all the squeaking was coming from their alternator, not their belt. Maybe they misdiagnosed it. Either that or there's a baby bird in there, little baby robin. So we've got to move these little spacers in and get a pair of pliers. So you got to be careful with these. You can't go just, bashing on them, because if you do, you're going to have some problems. You're going to break that bracket. So they're slotted. So I like to give them a little squeeze. And then a little rotate, get them working. Then I gotta go answer my phone. And we're back. So we'll get this one. Once you get them moving, then you're usually pretty home free as far as pushing them back in. Like I said, giving them a squeeze always helps. A lot of times you can just take them right out, kind of wire wheel them, and then put them back in. So this is what makes up the space on the alternator, from the different castings and different bodies. And if you try to force your alternator down in there, you take a chance of breaking the ears off this bracket, which you don't want to do. So let's see if we can wiggle these right out. Shrink down our pliers here a little bit more. There we go, there's one. And there's two. I'll go wire wheel and we'll never cease. Push them back in and we'll be golden. Just because you guys stuck around this long. I'll give you one of those. Well, I got no complainers. I got a little better spooge on this pulley here. There. There. We use some brake clean. Everybody's happy. I always forget. You guys are obsessed. Obsessed. Never sees in there. Set that down before we get all covered in it. Oh, I already did. Look, it's unavoidable. So then we give these a little squeeze to get them back started. And then they should be able to wiggle right in there. You just got to put it in the hole and wiggle it, and they'll pop right in. And then get them in as far as you can. That way the new alternator slips in there without an issue. And then when you tighten up the bolt, that spacer will drive in until it touches the alternator. In theory. Sometimes this device is actually on the alternator itself. No matter where it is, you've got to make sure it's free. Like Willie. There we go. That one's all the way in. Wipe off some of our never sees and then immediately throw this rag away. I can't. There's so much goodness on it still. It's on my fingers. Alright, wait for the right one to show up. Should be here momentarily. Can't believe I did that. Such a ding dong. We got our spec sheet. I got the wrong kind of alternator. Awesome! Got the wrong connector, folks. Son of a biscuit. I looked it up. 05 GMC 2500 HD 6.0. It said with 2-wire connector. It's got 2 wires. Story of my life. Like making a mountain out of a molehill. Are you guys lucky or what? Brake clean and I make 2 mistakes in a video. Again, it is my fault because it is. There's no other way to say it. Sometimes you gotta slow down to go fast, and I think that's what I've said before. And when I looked up the alternator, I thought it said 2-wire alternator. It says 2-pin. And then there's an option as you scroll down, a 4-pin. And I just think 2, I saw 2, my brain quit working. Seeing 2 and 4, we got 2-wire, but it's a 4-pin alternator. Son of a biscuit. I feel like a jerk because Advanced Auto Guy's got to drive up here again. It's his life, I guess. That's why I'm not a parts guy, you know? I'm not making excuses. I'd be a bad parts guy. I don't read. Anyhow, wait for the right one. Third time is the charm. Helps when you can pay attention and read. Oh, mine's already cut. And it came with a sheet. Oh, goody. So let's cross our fingers. And when they reman it, they did a nice job. I'm hopeful. So plug that in. First we'll hook our wire back up. 'Cause I know this, it won't work without it. I heard it click if you did. Torque the spec. Here we go. Put our air intake back on and we'll be good. Okay, battery should be recharged. Had a little more time than we anticipated on the charger. But I did get some other stuff done, so that's good. So we'll see where it's at. We'll see if this alternator works. It should. Oops. That's our meter. We start this up, Hannah. See where we're at right now. So yeah, right now we're at 12.66. So we're technically fully charged. We'll let her fire it up. Yeah, the belt's still squeaking. What are we at? 14.4. So it appears to be have good output. We'll give it full load, make sure it doesn't start to diminish on us. So we're in a full load situation right now. We've got the high beams on, the blower's on high, rear window defogger is on. I'll let it sit here for a little while. It looks like it is holding pretty steady though. So shouldn't be an issue. As long as our voltage stays high, you know, in this case, we don't have to check the amperage output of the alternator versus, you know, amperage being consumed versus amperage being generated. I'm going to give it a few minutes here, make sure it's steady, make sure we don't have a slow depletion, which we may have, but we'll find out. So after about, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes, I'll let it sit here. The 13.9 seems to be its happy number at full load. So I'm happy with that. I guess one thing we can look at, if you guys want to see perhaps a known good full field on the alternator, we can tap back into that. We'll have to pop back into our scope here. That way we can look at it. And we should see a higher on time, you know, so perhaps a higher interval as when the regulator stays turned on. So we can see that here. We'll back out on a different time basis. Slow it down a little bit. So when the voltage is high, you know, when it's at this 8 volts, that's when, you know, the ECM's telling that regulator to, you know, turn on and stay on, and then you can see this periodic, you know, high frequency duty cycle when it's, you know, shut it off, turn it back on, shut off, turn it back on. So if we go decrease the loads, we should see that change. You know, here we'll take and shut the headlights off, leave everything else still on. So we can see it's, you know, regulating at a different rate at this point because the demand is not as high. And we'll turn off some more stuff here. That belt's kind of annoying. So this is just kind of now it should be more like what we saw key on engine off. Yeah, and it is. So you can see how it regulates it there. So anyhow, simple stuff, alternator, Chevy, that's how they work. We're good. All right, so this one was a little different than the Ford we did. You know, we didn't have to check the amperage output of this alternator because it could clearly keep up with the electrical demands of the vehicle. So we're happy with that. We can kind of keep moving on here. We got to see how the ECM is regulating it, and there's no sense in putting in a scan tool to see, you know, what it's commanding it at or anything like that. This was simply a case of a bad alternator. Dang it, she dripped down on me. Just want to cover up our poke hole here. And that's that, so piece of cake. And that's that, folks. So pretty simple. You know, as you guys know from watching our channel, I'm not one to just shotgun a part at it, you know, on a guess. You know, does it need an alternator? More than likely, but I don't want to find out the hard way and have it end up costing me $150 or $160, whatever these alternators cost, you know, and have to eat the part and be wrong, and, you know, you have to swallow it. So I'm not going to do that. Definitely going to check everything before we can, even something as simple and mundane as an alternator. Because it's not always the alternator. There's a lot of variables. This is a computer control alternator. What if the computer's bad? You know, you don't know. You gotta test it, and it only takes a minute. You know, that's the thing. Simple. You know, a couple voltage drop tests. You know, certainly we could have done all that after we're done voltage drop it. You know, from on the power side and the ground side. But the fact of the matter is, you know, thing's holding 13.9 volts at full load, so I'm happy with that. You know, especially after extended time, you know, 5 minutes or whatever, and just steady there. So we're gonna go with it. Everything seems to work. It's just the old one was kaput. And that's that. Anyhow, questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comment box below. Smash that subscribe button, ring the bell, make sure you get notified. Find us on our socials, look us up on Patreon, and just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.